Preventing osteoporosis should be a priority for all women, and that's what we're going to talk about today, ways to optimize bone health. I'm your host, Jennifer Harrington, and you are listening to Menopause Natural Solutions, episode 17. Welcome to Menopause Natural Solutions, your podcast for all things perimenopause and menopause related. Stay tuned as naturopath Jennifer Harrington explains how to use natural therapies to transform your health and happiness. Welcome back. I'm your host Jen, and today is all things related to bone health. But before we get started, I have some exciting news. If you're listening to this podcast on the week it's released, the doors to my menopause online retreat are open. The retreat is set up to mimic an in-person health retreat, but from the comfort of your home. It's for women who are struggling with their menopausal transition. You may be experiencing hot flushes, mood swings, fatigue, vaginal dryness and more. Your health and happiness can no longer be pushed to the side. You are ready for change, but you might not know where to start, and you are over trying to wait it out. The retreat is an ongoing monthly membership, but you can stop at any point. The first month is all about getting a solid foundation of health. We will be discussing specific testing, nutrition, lifestyle habits, and environmental health. In trying to replicate an in-person retreat with our online retreat, I feel it's important to keep our group small in order to replicate the intimacy and the authenticity that usually occurs in a destination health retreat setting. So I apologize if the retreat is already sold out by the time you check it out. If this is the case, please join the wait list so I can offer you a place in the next retreat before I release it to the general public. Now on to today's content. Did you know that 90% of your peak bone mass is acquired by the age of 18 in females and continues to increase until the age of 30? Women start to lose about 1% of bone mass a year until menopause, and after menopause this increases to around 2 to 3% a year. This rapid increase in bone loss occurs in a woman's life due to the decreasing levels of estrogen. One of the biggest risks of an early menopause or of a medical menopause is bone health, because your estrogen levels start to drop much sooner. So instead of menopause happening around 51 years of age, it could happen at any point in your 30s, your 40s. That could be 10 or 20 years of extra bone loss, looking at that 2 to 3% every year. That sets you up for a massive increase in your risk of fractures, and fractures are a massive risk to longevity and quality of life. So today we really need to focus on optimizing bone health today and beyond. And okay, it may be easier to say, well, it's too late. I didn't have peak bone mass in my 30s, and now I'm in my 40s, 50s, 60s. What can I do? And I want to tell you this is wrong. What you may not realize is that your bone cells are alive and they are constantly renewing themselves, with the oldest bone cell in your body only being 10 years old. It is therefore possible to improve your bone health at any stage of life. And to get the best results, you really need a combined approach. You need to address your diet. You need to consider certain supplements. And there is so much research about lifestyle habits such as exercise. So come on, guys. Today, we're going to make ourselves a promise that we're going to actively work on improving our bone health so that we can live a fulfilling, healthy, active life. I don't know about you, but in my 80s and 90s, I plan to be running around after grandkids and great-grandkids and not be in a wheelchair worried that I'm going to fall over and break my hip. So join me, ladies, and let's talk about ways that we can make this happen. And I want to start with talking about diet. And a lot of people are so confused by diet. And hopefully today I help to make some of this more understandable, because therefore we're more likely to take action and make the necessary changes when we understand why we're doing these things. So the number one food you need more of for bone health is fat. I know, I've probably just blown your mind. But what you don't realize is with your bones, they have an outer fatty layer. And I want you to think of this as a fatty layer of mesh. And this mesh is what allows your nutrients a place to attach and strengthen your bones. Because without this mesh, your nutrients can't help your bones as they have nowhere to live. In your diet, we're looking at having about 7 to 8 tablespoons of fat, and let me say good quality fat, a day. And what I call a good quality fat is food sources like coconut, olive, nuts, seeds, avocados, eggs, seafoods. I personally take an oil supplement because I'm not going to get that 7 to 9 tablespoons of fat in my diet. So for me, it's my insurance policy. But what we really need to do is also avoid bad fats, in particularly deep fried, partially hydrogenated, cottonseed oil, corn oil, vegetable oil, soybean oil, canola oil, and trans fats, because these actually create an unhealthy mesh that actually damages and destroys your bone health, rather than being a healthy mesh that gives your nutrients like calcium a place to live, to strengthen and nourish your bones. So I hope I haven't lost too many of you there or confused you, but number one rule, plenty of good fats, avoiding bad fats. The second most important nutrient is protein. Yes, protein. In relation to your bones, it strengthens the bone mesh that we spoke about. So the fat is the mesh, the protein is helping with the collagen fibers that strengthen that mesh, and that helps your bone regenerate and to turn over with fresh cells. To get adequate protein, you need to have a protein source in every meal. Good protein sources include wild-caught fish, organic chicken, grass-fed meats, organic eggs, nuts and seeds. Things to avoid is sugars. Sugars are so highly acidic, and it's the acidity that leaches the calcium out of your bones to buffer the pH levels. And this also increases the urinary excretion of calcium, and that calcium is lost for good. Soft drinks. And I don't care whether these are full-strength sugar soft drinks or whether they are your low-sugar diet versions of soft drinks, or pop or soda, whatever you call it where you are in the world. Research has shown that even 1 can a day increases your risk of bone fractures by 3 to 5 times due to the thinning and weakening of your bones over time. So please, guys, no more sugar, no more soft drinks, plenty of good fats, plenty of protein, and your bones will thank you. But there's one last thing that I missed, so we'll cover that before we move on, and that is gluten. Gluten in gluten-sensitive individuals, and also celiacs, has been found to thin bones and increase inflammation. So cut that out at the same time. What we want to increase, or the key nutrients that we use for building bone. Now, most of you will put your hand up and say, I know this, it's calcium. But I may actually change your mind on that as we go through. So yes, calcium, your bones are a storehouse for calcium for your heart, muscles, blood, and nerves. And if you don't have enough dissolved calcium in your blood, your body will take it from your bones. So think of your bones as a storage house. It's the bank. So we bank our calcium in our bones so that our heart, our muscles, our blood, and our nerves can access that fuel source at any given time. And let me tell you, your body will prioritize your heart health over your bone health. So it has no problems with taking that last bit of calcium from your poor osteoporotic bone and giving it to your heart if that's what it needs. let's talk about having adequate calcium to allow the calcium to remain in your bones and to have plenty of dissolved calcium in the blood for your heart and muscles and other body parts. And the big problem is a lot of people are having dairy sources for their calcium. And dairy that has been pasteurized and homogenized has denatured calcium in it, making it unabsorbable. Your better calcium sources are seeds, in particularly sesame seeds. So chuck them on your salads, crush them up and make some tahini. Sesame seeds are one of the best food sources of calcium. And you can look at things like sardines, so fish that still have their bones in it, dark green leafy veggies, and other nuts. Calcium may not be the golden supplement for bone health after all. I'm not sure if any of you are aware, but there are actually risks of taking calcium supplementation. And these risks are not related to food sources. So keep going with your sesame seeds. The risk is purely related with supplementation. And the issue is if you have too much unopposed dissolved calcium in the blood, it can store excess in other areas than your bones. So some people get calcium deposits in their kidneys, and this contributes towards kidney stones. Some people get abnormal calcium deposits in their bones, causing bone spurs. It's also linked in with bursitis and arterial sclerosis and glaucoma. So I do not recommend solo calcium supplementation. Instead, I recommend a bone combination product because having the additional minerals in there reduces the risk of all of these complications. And the main mineral that you must make sure you're taking with calcium is magnesium. But research is actually looking at magnesium being more important for bone health than calcium. Magnesium helps keep your calcium dissolved in the blood and stops it from being deposited elsewhere, which is good. Magnesium on its own enhances bone building and bone remodeling. So you can hear each week I talk about my love of magnesium, and you can see why. It's just such a beautiful mineral that does so many different things. A lot of people think magnesium is muscle health, but magnesium is also bone health. Other nutrients that I want you to consider is vitamin D. Vitamin D activates alkaline phosphatase for bone remineralization. It is needed to absorb and to help lock the calcium in your bones to enhance bone remineralization. Vitamin K. Vitamin K, I like to supplement with vitamin D and vitamin K simultaneously, and there's lots of combination products out there. So vitamin K is involved in bone metabolism, and it helps to prevent osteoporosis by activating your osteocalcin, which is the building block for the bone matrix. Food sources of vitamin K include spinach, silver beet, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, lettuce. So hopefully you have lots of those in your diet. Here are some additional nutrients. So things like vitamin A. Vitamin A is a building block together with vitamin D for the production of the connective tissue and the collagen matrix for the cartilage and the bone. Vitamin C is essential for bone repair and the reduction of cortisol, and cortisol is linked in with additional bone breakdown. So guys, that's your stress hormone in case you're thinking, oh, where have I heard of cortisol before? So vitamin C helps to reduce stress. It helps to reduce your cortisol level. Therefore, it minimizes the breakdown of bone. Next, we look at boron. And boron is essential in combination with calcium and magnesium for good bone maintenance. And it also plays a role with vitamin D activation. Manganese is needed for skeletal and cartilage formation. Potassium has a role with strengthening bones. Resveratrol can help prevent bone loss. Silica increases bone collagen and strengthens the connective tissue. It also increases the rate of bone remineralization. and zinc is essential for collagen formation. So hopefully what I want you to take away from this is if you are supplementing, you are getting a combination product. You are not going, bones, calcium, that's what I need, because there are risks and complications, as we've discussed, with doing it that way. And anyway, guys, I would prefer that you come and talk to a practitioner. It may be me, it may be somebody else, but they're going to help look at you as an individual and see what nutrients you're lacking and where they can best help you, not just with your bone strength, but with all aspects of your life. So now we're going to move on to lifestyle. So exercise, hands down, is probably one of the best ways to rebuild and strengthen your bone health. And in particularly, we're looking for weight or resistance exercise, ideally 3 to 4 times a week. Sunshine, I want you to go outside and get some vitamin D. But with vitamin D, I want you to try and get sunscreen-free exposure regularly without getting burnt. Excessive alcohol consumption robs bones by slowing down the bone reformation and accelerates bone breakdown. Cigarette smoking also accelerates bone breakdown. So guys, hopefully none of you are smoking, but if you are, please stop. Cigarettes contain cadmium, and it's the cadmium which interferes with the bone formation. We want to reduce stress, because stress, as we mentioned before, has that connection with excessive cortisol levels, and excessive cortisol levels reduces bone mass. Lead. Now, lead accumulation over a lifetime can get stored in your bones and also in your teeth. And your bones hold about 95% of your total body lead burden. As lead is not stored in your blood, don't test for it in your blood. Blood tests are only accurate during a recent lead exposure, and that is usually within a 28-day period. As your exposure is more likely to have been decades ago, blood testing is irrelevant. Hair testing is the more accurate way to check for your stored lead levels. And during your youth, having lead locked in your bones and your teeth is actually a safer place to store it away. But unfortunately, during menopause, when your bone mass is reducing, these stores can be mobilized. They leave their inert hiding places. They recirculate through the body and re-enter the blood and the soft tissue. High lead levels can cause an increase in blood pressure, an inability to sleep, concentration and memory issues, headaches and depression, or symptoms related to menopause. It's important to get to the root cause of your symptoms so you can find a long-term resolution. But thankfully for our current generations and our future generations, environmental lead levels are reducing these days. But we grew up, we grew up in the lead era. It was only removed from paint in 1978. But it is still possible to have lead-based paint and lead-based dust in older houses. And it was only removed from petrol in 2002. So if you want to check, if you suspect that lead may play a role in your symptoms, go and get a hair test. I personally use the HTMA, the hair tissue mineral analysis. And if you do find that you have lead that is coming out of its storage places, you need to detox. We need to get it out of your system to resolve your symptom picture so that you can feel good. HTMA is also good for assessing cadmium levels if you are a smoker. Other tests that I look at are vitamin D and also a DEXA scan just to assess what your bone density actually is. But before we finish off, I feel it's important to let you know that certain medications weaken your bones. Now, please do not stop these medications. What I want to do is encourage a conversation between you and your doctor about what strategies you can put in place to minimize issues with bone density down the track. So these medications include corticosteroids. So if you have asthma, rheumatoid arthritis, or other inflammatory conditions, you may be on this drug. And also antacids, some epilepsy medication, and some antidepressants. So again, please do not stop them. Instead, I want to encourage an open dialogue with you and your prescribing practitioner so that you can get strategies in place. And those strategies may include the things that we spoke about today, the dietary changes, weight-bearing exercise. These all significantly help to rebuild bone and to reduce bone loss. I want to thank each and every one of you who listens to my podcast. It truly is an honour to be able to serve you, and it excites me to see how many women around the world I can help with my knowledge. It blows my mind that my little podcast is downloaded in over 38 different countries. I love that I can reach you where you are in the world and help you transform your menopausal transition. But I have a favour to ask. If you have enjoyed or benefited from this service in any way, can you please rate and review and share my podcast with your friends? Help me help more women during this potentially difficult time. Thank you to everyone who has already done this. And until next week, take care, stay well, bye. Menopause Natural Solutions. This podcast contains general information about menopause. It is provided as a guide and is not intended to replace medical advice.